Alrighty everyone, welcome back. It is now getting closer to the end of April of 2023, and as we also are very much near to the final episode of The Mandalorian Season 3, a lot of Star Wars fans are really anticipating the Ahsoka Tano series that debuts this August. That's really going to unveil new aspects of the franchise that we have never seen before, thanks to Dave Filoni, and really setting up the next phase of the Mandoverse. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future Star Wars updates. I'm also on Twitter at Mike01. I thank you also very much for the great and kind support. Now, one thing about Bob Iger is that he has been in a constant shakeup with the Disney executives, the board, you name it, and how a lot of that has to do with the Indiana Jones franchise, as well as the Star Wars and Marvel franchises out there, and how they're really trying to handle all three big properties in the most respectful way possible. We know that Indiana Jones, the series, got canceled, The Willow Show got canceled from Lucasfilm as well, two major actual TV shows, and they're heavily now relying on this current state of Star Wars, as well as Indy 5, releasing by this June. But that brings us to what Bob Iger had to say about Kathleen Kennedy and acquiring new leadership, and teasing her firing and her time to come to a close, and exactly what he also had to unveil about the future of Star Wars and where it's all heading. Now, we know one thing about Bob Iger is that this is a guy that's been very involved with the executives, trying to establish that once Kathleen Kennedy gets fired, he does want to paint it over, that she's truly just stepping down. He wants to cover it up that way, and that single-handedly got him in trouble by the Disney board. That's exactly why they want him out by next year. Now, with many new Star Wars shows in the works by John and Dave, both Disney and Lucasfilm are beginning to develop new projects that will be announced later this year at D23. Now, further, it's noted that currently Disney CEO Bob Iger recently teased Kathleen Kennedy's firing in a new interview. Iger stated the following to the fans: "Well, the film industry is a tough business and things are always changing along the way, such as reaching for new leadership to take care of our other products. We have our options completely open right now for Star Wars, and what kind of new leadership we are welcoming, and everything is lined up for when we want to make that call. It's something that we have been conversing about every single day on how we can do something like that in a smooth, transitional way that will allow the newcomer to handle a brand as big as Star Wars. Kathy has worked with us now for many years, and we are beginning to seek new leadership on how we can effectively evolve this major brand that Lucas respectfully handed over to us back in 2012. It's been a struggle for sure, trying to find what works and what does not, and sometimes that falls into leadership as well, unfortunately, and well, sometimes you have to make an urgent decision on how to handle something like that to ensure that the brand can grow." Now, let me just stop right here for 1 second about what Iger's saying, is that we know that Iger is really focusing on one goal right now with the Disney board and the executives, and that is all about acquiring new leadership. They have Dana Brunetti standing by as the top candidate of the new Lucasfilm president once Kathleen Kennedy is fired, and basically that's their overall game plan. They want to get Dana Brunetti on board because not only does this guy know the Star Wars franchise very well, but he's also one of the Hollywood producers out there. Now, the thing about this too, you gotta realize, is that Bob Iger is literally teasing exactly why he's so unhappy with Kathleen Kennedy, stating how they have been in a constant struggle recently for the Star Wars franchise and where it's been going, and how sometimes things are needed to evolve the brand, and that has a lot to do with acquiring new leadership. So, the thing about Bob Iger is that even though I do have a lot of skepticism about the guy, I do always criticize him as a CEO. I've said this many times before in the past for years now, and I felt that Bob Chapek was doing a better job at the time. Now, given that Bob Iger picked up where Chapek left off, it's really giving him the opportunity to do something that fans have been asking for a very long time: for Lucasfilm to gain new leadership. Now, this is something that's in a constant struggle as well, because there's a lot of executives that are now leaning towards giving Kennedy a second chance, depending on the success of Indy 5. That's one of the big proposals that a lot of executives are giving to the others about giving Kennedy a second shot, or a final shot, I should say, depending on, if Indy 5 succeeds, they'll keep her. If it fails, they'll give her the boot. They don't want to look like they're going to be vilifying a producer if Indy 5 becomes very much wildly successful. So that's where Bob Iger comes in, though. We know that this is a guy that wants to cover up her firing as her stepping down when the time comes, which is just kind of snaky to me, to be honest, and that's why a lot of board members got a little uncomfortable with him, and why there was another recent shakeup. But I digress. He goes on to conclude by elaborating, we are now focusing on quality-driven projects by very talented writers, instead of quantity. We are right-sizing our Star Wars shows and leaning toward bringing Star Wars back to the theaters again. Something that Kathleen insisted that we stay away and refrain from doing, but we felt it was necessary to bring this brand right back where it started. That, of course, being in the cinema, on a big screen with hundreds of people cheering in a room. That's what we want to see again for Star Wars, and it's something that we are reaching toward in a relentless way. It's our number one goal right now to establish that all over again. And you know what, guys? It's true. Star Wars started in the theaters, that's where it belongs, and yeah, I mean, sure, look, ticket prices are through the roof. I understand that they're pricey. Not everyone can afford it, especially with the whole family, and that's completely understandable. But the thing about the shows is that they have limited budgets with the Star Wars shows specifically. I'm not saying all shows are like that, but in the sense of Star Wars, the shows are limited to a specific type of budget. So it really does, allow them to have more breathing room budget-wise with a movie, because they're then relying on ticket sales and repeat ticket sales, stuff like that. They can expect a higher intake of revenue. That's basically why Bob Iger wants to bring Star Wars back to the theater. They have more options to gain more revenue than just relying on subscriptions and fan retention on the Disney Plus platform. We've seen a lot of people doing this on Disney Plus. They'll subscribe, watch The Mandalorian, and then unsubscribe from Disney Plus. And that's something that Disney does not like, believe it or not. And that's why they want to bring Star Wars back to the cinema. They want to give those repeat ticket sales a shot again to gain, revenue in a way, like basically with what The Rise of Skywalker did, as well as, Episode 8. So there's a lot of things going into this. We know that Bob Iger is, respecting George Lucas lately. He's allowing Lucas to do whatever he wants to do with John and Dave. He really has a lot of input on many of the upcoming shows and movies that are currently in the early development phase and different phases of development as well. So yeah, there's a lot of work going into all of this, and I think at the end of the day, Bob Iger just wants to leave in his own legacy. So anyways, guys, fill me in below in the comments what you all have to say about this, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.
Gun in hand, we are alone again. No, I'm not the one from night to moon.